Good morning, everyone. I, Pragya, welcome you all on behalf of Governance Now at the PSC Automation Masterclass. I thank everyone who has joined us today. Intelligent automation is a crucial component of technology-led automation, and especially in the sectors like oil and gas, energy, manufacturing, logistics, transportation, and logistics. Automation is gaining a lot of momentum in the public sector, but at the same time, it brings various concerns and challenges too. Therefore, Governance Now Automation Anywhere has organized this masterclass to address those concerns. This 1.5 hours is going to be really enlightening for all of us as our panel brings a blend of experts from the public sector, private sector, and solution provider with years of experience in this area. But before we begin the session, I would like to quickly share how delegates can ask questions. This session is about 1.5 hours, so if you have any question, write in the question box. Panelists will keep addressing those questions during the discussion. There will be a live interaction after the panel discussion. If you would like to ask questions directly over the voice or video, please mention your question along with the panelist name the question is intended to, and how would you like to ask, through video or audio. And do keep your hand raised using the hand button in your panel. We will try to take as many questions within the time limit. If you have any queries or concern, or you face any technical difficulties, please keep posted to the question box. So without further delay, I would like to invite our esteemed panelists and expert, Sri Alok Khanna, Executive Director, Indian Oil Corporation. Mr. Khanna did Bachelor's of Engineering in Chemical from the University of Roorkee in 1982. After that, he joined Indian Oil in 1983 and have been serving since then. He did International MBA from the University of Lezivillzana in the year 1999. At present, he is a head of strategic IS and leading digital transformation team in IOCL. This digital transformation project is multi-year digital transformation journey to accelerate and implementation, identify digital initiatives, build strategic IT and digital capabilities across IOCL, and drive change and create organization-wide digital awareness. Over the 17 years, he has worked in various functions in IOCL like LPG, Regional Control Office, design many more. He was also a key part of SAP implementation project in Indian Oil from the year 1999 to 2012. Welcome, sir, and thank you for joining us today. Now I invite Sri V. Paparaju, Group General Manager, ENT, Head SCADA, Oil and Natural Gas Corporation Limited, ONGC. Mr. Raju did his BTech in Electronics and Communication Engineering in 1984, and he also did his diploma in German. He is graduated from JNTU College of Engineering, Hyderabad, and he joined ONGC in 1985. He is presently Group General Manager and Assignment Head for SCADA, Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. He has 18 years experience in exploration, 12 years of experience in offshore production, and 5 years of experience in Infocom. And his interest lies in technology and cybersecurity. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Now I invite CM Manoj Kumar, Head of Information Technology, Oil and Gas, HPCL Mittal Energy Limited. Mr. Manoj is Head of Information Technology at HPCL Mittal Energy Limited. He started his professional journey as Chartered Accountant, and now his 22 years of professional journey has a flavor of financial auditing, process, control implementation, managing international ERP projects, and implementation of Greenfield ERP projects. In his current role, he is leading entire IT and digital portfolio, covering ERP, MES integration, IT infrastructure, enterprise performance management, and new age digital technologies like RPA, mobility, industrial IoT, AR, VR, advanced analytics, and so on at HPCL Mittal Energy Limited. And now I welcome our moderator of the panel, Shri Pramod Agarwal, Vice President, Regional CTO, Automation Anywhere. Mr. Agarwal is a technology leader with 23 plus years of global work in creating enterprise business applications and high performance platform technology. He currently serves as Regional CTO for Automation Anywhere and a Silicon Valley startup in robotic process automation and artificial intelligence space. Prior to this, he headed India Development Center for Oracle's PeopleSoft Enterprise Software Division, and then as CTO for Applied AI Platform for Baker Hughes, an energy technology firm. He is passionate about the use of IT in transforming organizations and help them succeed in their mission. He is alumnus of IIT Roorkee, IIM Bangalore, and Ohio State University, US. So thank you so much for joining and moderating the panel. So before beginning the panel, Mr. Agarwal has a very short presentation and very interesting presentation. He will begin the panel once he finishes his presentation. So ladies and gentlemen, keep posting your questions and feedback. Over to you, Mr.
Thank you, Ragini, and it's truly a privilege to be hosting this session along with Mr. Alok, Mr. Raju, and Mr. Manoj Kumar. I'm pretty sure I'll have a lot to learn from this session. So what we'll do today is we'll begin with laying some context for the automation and then learn from the real practitioners of digital transformation in the Indian public sector as to how we should go about it, what sort of journeys they have taken, and what are their plans for the future. So with that, I'll start with a poll just to understand where the audience is at with respect to the automation and okay. So Ragini, maybe you can start with poll number 1, just to take a look at where people are now. Yeah.
So I have started the poll. So dear attendees, I request you to kindly share your answers. Where is your organization in the automation journey now? There are 4-5 options given. I request you to choose. So we are getting the answers. Pramod?
Yeah, Ragini, once the
seconds.
yeah, please share the results once the poll is closed.
Yeah, sure. So let's close it. Okay. So more maximum people, 37% attendees have said they are still evaluating the technology, and 23% are planning and experimenting. 14% said they are doing a pilot, and 9% people scaling up RPA setup, and 16% of the audience said they have not begun that yet.
Okay, I think that's quite an indicative of the need for a session like this, so we can educate ourselves on what this technology can do. So let's run the next setup. Next poll, please.
So, inviting the poll, which are the functions wherein you see a lot of manual and repetitive activities across the organization? Please select one of the following: HR, finance, operations and maintenance, IT, marketing. So getting the votes, yeah. Please keep voting, dear audience. Closing it in 5 seconds. So the 35% of the attendees said HR, 33% finance, 20% of the people said operations and maintenance, and 12% people said IT, and nobody has selected marketing as of yet. So we don't have much audience from that side.
Yeah.
So just that is it.
Thank you, Ragini, for running the poll. So I think that's also fairly indicative of understanding the possibilities with automation. And we have obviously, having worked with thousands of organizations across the globe, people typically have started with functions like finance, then HR, IT. And as they realize the value of the technology and the possibilities, operations maintenance become critical drivers of automation. As an example, with Schlumberger, who have automated more than 100 processes, see over 60% related to maintenance, other HR and finance. So there are possibilities across the board, and I'm very happy to hear that audience sees the possibility of automation. So with that, let me just share my screen. And Ragini, can you confirm my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Perfect. So let's, I think over the next 50 minutes or so, we'll have the opportunity to listen from our esteemed panelists. And before we do that, I just wanted to lay sort of a framework for understanding the automation technologies and the possibilities around that. Let me first introduce my firm, Automation Anywhere, where We have been working on this problem for about 15 years now. We have in fact been the pioneer in the robotic process automation space, and we are a recognized leader amongst all the major analyst firms. With over 4,000 customers globally and almost 2 million bots deployed, we can say for sure that the technology has the potential to digitally transform organizations and transform at scale. So with 2,400 people worldwide, this company has a significant presence in India. This is a company which was founded by 4 Indians, and their goal was to start a world-class platform engineering company out of and from Baroda they start. So now the company is headquartered in San Jose. It's about a $7 billion market capitalization company, and hundreds of partners across the globe, and a lot of them serving customers out of India as well. So we entered the India market about 2 years ago, and we've seen significant interest and adoption across Indian enterprise part of our technology. So in today's session, I'm hoping that we can provide further insights to see how public sector can leverage this technology, which is already a proven technology across the globe. So if you look at, and I think most of the audience, as I saw yesterday, was from the IT and various business functions, they would recognize that if you look at the state of digitization today, it's every organization, and especially the large ones, have hundreds of applications to serve their different point needs, whether it is in the area of HR, finance, and even when you look at finance, you look at treasury, you look at general ledger, AR, receivables, invoicing, various functions within procure to pay, order to cash, etc. And then various homegrown apps that you might have to serve various needs of your stakeholders, right? So what happens today is that you build these point solutions, and I myself build point solutions at Oracle running the PeopleSoft. Today, you need to deploy a lot of human labor to actually get the process to be completed, right? And a lot of this work, if you look at any particular process, whether it is invoicing or whether it is looking at an engineering operation, it requires you to pick up data, do something with the data, and push it into the next system in the process, right? And that requires a lot of people. And because then the actual work is happening through people, there are inefficiencies and errors introduced due to this execution of the process to the human labor, right? So with robotic process automation, you can transform that by employing digital labor that can more reliably do the job of one moment, I have lost my screen. I'm trying to gain back. Screen, hang on. So once you replace or augment the human labor with the digital bots, you can transform your process to be more automated and more streamlined. In fact, a lot of our customers, and one example I can give you is from a major storage vendor. They started by automating their order fulfillment process, which typically sees a surge end of the quarter. And they started dealing with the surge, that they ended up with much higher customer satisfaction, much lower error rates, much better cash collection, and therefore they transformed their customer experience as well as their billing process. So the opportunity with the technology like this is kind of immense, right? If you look at the automation possibilities today, you can primarily categorize them into front office, where you may be dealing with a bunch of customer-centric processes, where either your agents or your people in the organization are dealing with your employees, with your customers, and with your partners. You may have a lot of applications in the back end trying to digitize the processes around HR, finance, and operations. And then you have employees who are working with a bunch of productivity applications, whether these are open source or G Suite or Office 365, and then connecting them all together in order to serve a particular process, right? But when you are looking at that, you cannot look at automation technology as one technology for the front office use cases, one technology for the back office use cases, and one for the employee. In fact, you have to have a single platform where all of these different applications that you own across the organization can leverage the same platform. So you have the central manageability, ability to manage security from a central place, and have complete visibility across different systems from the same set of automation technologies. So you can't buy different automation technologies for different applications and then achieve the goal of automation, which is to drive a seamless process on top of all the digital assets that you own. Right? So if you look at the Automation Anywhere's automation platform, it deals with your core RPA, which is your rules-based processes, right? And developing bots on top of that. But typically, you have a lot of human interpretation required in looking at documents and transforming that information into meaningful information to be processed via the app. Or you may have a process that may be starting with an email or a conversation that we need to end up in a particular process. So you have to look at the whole cycle of rules-based processes as well as the human interpretation, and look at the process holistically to see where you can intervene with the right automation. So both these technologies around rules-based and the AI-based document understanding are inbuilt into the platform. And now we are looking at an AI-based technology called Discovery Bot, which can then discover the processes that your workers are carrying out and tell you intelligently what are the real automation opportunities. So rather than beginning your journey by understanding the current process manually, you can now begin your journey by understanding the processes through an AI-assisted tool called Discovery Bot, which can tell you the automation opportunities of the organization and then help you automate through the enterprise platform. And then once you have automated the whole process, then through the bot inside, which is an analytics platform, you can assess whether you're meeting your SLAs, what is the contribution of this automation towards improving your business efficiencies, and what is the ROI on the whole automation effort. So the one single platform gives you all the capabilities of automating all the front office, back office processes, as well as helping you analyze and keep improving on your processes over time. Now, the platform is available on-premise, which I think a lot of our public sector organizations might be required to use. But as the thinking around cloud is opening up, the platform is available on the cloud as well. And in fact, it's available in a RPA as a service platform where you don't have to pay for hardware, right? You just subscribe to the platform, and then it becomes available to you possibly within the same day for you to start automating your processes, right? Or if you have a hybrid cloud approach, we support the hybrid cloud approach as well. Now, from a public sector perspective, another thing that I think will be very powerful is our concept of bot store. In the bot store, you can essentially share your knowledge through these bots, right? And once you have developed, let's say, an automation for a particular process, let's say whether it is in energy sector or whether it is steel sector or whether it's some specific type of manufacturing or usage of common applications across different enterprises, which may be mandated by the, let's say, the NIC or the government clouds. You can build the bots and then share it on the bot store, so the same IP is available across the board. In fact, we have a lot of partners for building bots for common processes, such as over Oracle or over Microsoft, SAP, etc., that you can just pick up from the bot store and deploy it for accelerating your automation journey, right? So I think that bots can be quite productive in accelerating RPA journeys across organizations. Now, when you look at a tool like this, then you start to wonder that there are so many possibilities, but what can I really do about it, right? So very recently, and this is an example from China, where once Chinese economy opened up, as the employers were beginning to bring workforce in, they had obvious risks with the health, right? What is the employee health situation based on where, for example, the containment zone may be coming in? What's the situation with respect to the COVID spread in a particular region? And if you look at a bunch of resources that they had available, from travel history to public health information to employees' own record using, for example, the Arogya Setu records, how do you then assess the risk to employees' health by having him come into the office, right? So they use the platform to get data from all these various systems, and then they applied the AI-based document understanding called IQBot, extract information, and then applied some AI-based model to predict the risk of health for an employee. And then we were able to take action with respect to allowing an employee to come to work or not. And because the situation is dynamic, you almost need to do that every other day, right, for an employee to understand the risk of health. And this kind of flexibility offered by the platform to be able to bring different sources of information, applications, and uh, uh, connect them into a process which can deliver business value to you is very, very meaningful for the business today as they look at a very agile approach to building and deploying these new experiences for their stakeholders. So just to introduce the platform to you, I'll run a quick video of how easy the platform is to use. It's a web-based platform where control room is centrally hosted. The web-based bot feature becomes available to any user across the enterprise. Zero installation. You're logging into this web app, and then it presents an interface to you where all the commands are basically functions. These functions can be brought in, be orchestrated into a process. You are launching a browser where you are extracting some data from the browser website of a stock record or oil prices or energy prices. Then you can analyze them in an Excel, and then you can take action, informing somebody or putting that information in Excel. Because it's a browser based, because it is a visual flow, both the business users as the these bots and be deployed. In fact, when we do demos live, we can see that the users are able to build these bots in 30 minutes to an hour of sufficient high performance. A very low interface immediately makes productive all of the developer in business process. So if you look at a typical example, let's say in the oil and gas sector, we have some examples where companies like GAIL are using it for equipment condition monitoring. And the problem essentially is of a varied sources of data that enterprises typically have, which they want to deploy, but are unable to deploy quickly to use through either analytics or for processes that can reduce errors or improve productivity, or for things like improving cash collection by reducing error rate and making the process of analyzing and getting the invoice out with the correct data very, very quickly, right? So all across the board, for whether it is a manufacturing organization, oil and gas, energy, wherever you can think of a variety of different applications that need to serve a common need, a common business value, to use this platform to stitch together all of these different applications, get the data, whether it is coming from a stream, from a database, a data source, to an API, and do any analysis on it. You can stitch the whole layer on top of it, right? Particular business. And we are seeing organizations, for example, an Australian energy organization, they, the first year of operation, we were able to get, I think, over 100% of ROI by deploying this just for transaction billing. And all the system did was able to access information in SAP in their various email systems and various productivity applications to offer a much better transaction billing error-free experience to the user. So there are examples like this all across the board, whether it is in operations, whether finance, HR, that we're seeing. So now that you can see what the technology can be used for, we have seen organizations adopt this technology in many different ways. Um, some organizations are looking at the technology for solving a very critical problem. They may start with one process or a few processes, but look at it from an end-to-end perspective so they can create a very clear value justification on top of this technology. And they may start with, let's say a cash process or invoicing process, right? And then drive it to a higher accuracy, lower error rate, and measure what is, let's say, my cash flow improvement for this process. So we call this a Reagan approach. It was very famous for the trust approach. Some organizations we are seeing, for example, L&T in India, they are looking at it and as a much more broad-based technology where they are offering it to a lot of their HR and finance process workers, and they are thinking of improving employee productivity as well as automation. So there's a technology within the set called attended automation, where the human is working together with the bots and the application working in to track the process. So we call this an Obama approach, where the goal was much more missionary and around which we can. And we have seen some organizations like IT Infotech who are doing a bot everywhere. So their approach is, let's have every person in the organization get the value out of this technology. And we call this a Martin Luther approach, because he basically dreamt about what would be the future of the societies. And in this case, ITC Infotech is looking at what is the future of work, and there have a digital worker assist, and especially in today's times, right, where people are working from anywhere, an approach like I have a dream, really transformative for the organization, right? So I'm pretty sure we're going to discuss more of that through the panel discussion. We have several customers who already signed up with us to and started the journey. And in fact, Indian Oil and HMEL are presented in today's session. And I think we're going to hear some very interesting stories from them about how they are visioning this. So with that, I'm going to stop my session. And Rajini, is there a next poll that you're going to post now? Rajini?
So I'm running the poll.
Yeah.
What is the most important for you in achieving results from automation? Increasing productivity, improve quality and compliance, higher customer satisfaction, greater speed, reduce staffing. So dear audience, I quickly request you to kindly submit your answers. Closing in 5 seconds. So 47% people said that increasing productivity, 27% people said improve quality and compliance, 15% people said higher customer satisfaction, 7% people said greater speed, and only 4% people said reduce staffing.
Fantastic. I so there's definitely a different flavor to expectation, and I'm pretty sure the panelists will be able to cover how they are achieving this.
So there is another thing of critical challenges. So what are the critical challenges faced by you in your automation journey? Is that inability to scale, process identification, ROI justification, technology vendor, or yet not started? We're getting votes. Just wait for a few seconds and we'll close it. Start the panel discussion. Closing in 5 seconds. So 38% people said process identification is a critical challenge. Followed by 27% people said ROI justification, 16% people said technology vendor, 11% people have not yet started, and 9% people said they inability to scale as a critical challenge. So
I think this
is
a common response, yeah. And we'll discuss the ROI justification with the panel, but on the process discovery aspect, we have a new tool, like I discussed, called Discovery Bot, to assist with the discovery of the process that the users are. Ragini, shall we start with the panel discussion now?
Yes, we can start with the panel discussion. So we have Shri Alok Khanna.
Go ahead, please.
Sorry, sir.
Yeah, let's start with the panel discussion. How do we get the webcam screen back?
Okay.
Okay.
Have you got
so yes, now I can see. Thank you. So, dear Mr. Alok, Mr. Raju, and Mr. Manoj Kumar, welcome to the panel. I think the first question that I think I have for everybody is, as you think about the current economic scenario, and I know all of you have looked at the RPA automation technologies. Could you please provide your view on how do you see that application of these technologies in the context of how we are going to recover and how do we prepare ourselves for the post-COVID scenario? So, dear Mr. Alok, please proceed. Mr. Alok,
Yes, yes,
was I
yes.
audible?
Now you are audible.
Okay, so I was to start the panel. I think the big question that everybody has is that we are going through this current COVID economic scenario. How do we use the RPA and the automation technologies to prepare ourselves for the post-COVID, and what are the challenges in front of the public sector enterprises, and especially the sector that you're dealing with today? And how do you propose the use of these technologies?
It's a very interesting question because COVID has resulted into thinner attendance in office, and I think today we have only 30% people coming to the office, and I don't think for the next 6 months to 8 months this situation is going to change. So we have to run the offices with thinner attendance. Work from home is good, is effective for certain works, but other works which are to be done physically, they need presence in office. So the COVID scenario has brought the need forward for such automation of processes. This is one thing which I feel, because as such we were already going on the path of RPA, but this COVID has really accelerated the need, and even the higher management has realized that now the things will not be the same again, and even the staff may not come in full attendance hereafter for the next 6 to 8 months. That is one point I want to say. Second thing is that if we talk of within the organization, there are ample opportunities available for automation, but even external systems nowadays, they are also now capable of exchanging the data in the form of services, and there are also lot of opportunities available for automating the processes. The another interesting application of RPA in public sector would be the regulatory compliances. Now these are some of the regulatory compliances we tend to forget during the course of our work, or they are so difficult that we cannot monitor. I am telling just one compliance which is coming to my mind, which can result in heavy penalties for a company, is monitoring the unauthorized uses of softwares in the desktops or laptops provided in the company offices. These are the processes which can really give you safety. So we talk of productivity improvement, we talk of manpower reduction, but these are also areas where companies can look forward and ensure that there is 100% software compliance. In fact, we had done it earlier within Indian Oil. This is one of the examples we had taken up and done it, because many vendors were coming and trying to put heavy claims on us for wrong reasons. They were not correct, but then we must have proof to convince them. So these automated processes, they record and do it. Then you have manufacturing units which are procuring very high cost of spare parts. Now these high cost inventory control materials, they need to be regulated. Now in most of the companies, I don't know whether there is a set process which can intelligently assess that this spare part is consumed so many numbers in a month or year, and accordingly raise the purchase requisition. These are the areas I am really looking for, because these are very, very high cost inventory materials which are lying unused in our store as a surplus after 5 or 6 years. So besides the normal thing, this is what I came to my mind, which I wanted to put forward. I sincerely believe other panelists will also add to their wisdom to this.
Absolutely. They're very, very insightful comments. I think compliance and reporting is one area where we're seeing a lot of companies using the automation tools. And the areas like inventory, stock taking, use by, I think those are all very, very productive use cases of this technology as well. Mr. Raju, maybe I think I can turn over to you now and provide your commentary as to how you are viewing this set of technologies and any specific use case that come to your mind from an engineering or operations and maintenance perspective.
Actually, I came across this technology in a technical symposium. Am I audible?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, Mr. Raj.
Yeah. First, I came across RPA in a technology symposium, and I found it interesting. And we did a POC, in fact, with the Automation Anywhere Delhi team, where we identified our processes. One of the main, we saw that we spent quite a time in report generation, technical reports. In addition to HR, finance, and technically also, based on SAP, we generate a lot of reports. Now there are multi-transaction reports. We generate a lot of manually. We do transactions, take the outputs into an Excel sheet again, then apply the analytics and the personal analytics, and I'll try to analyze the data. So we thought that there is a lot of scope, and we did a POC there, wherein production field from different production which comes into SAP, we took off from that and we compared with SCADA and things like that. What are the deviations and things like that. So we could generate a lot of automation and workflow based on, and we generated in a very low time. Within a week, our output was ready. And the next reports, and we tested it, found to be good. And we didn't need a SAP license for it. So we found that to be good. And in answering your question, and we are going ahead and trying to do a pilot RPA a bit. We want to do it step by step. We want to do a pilot. Our actual process is underway, and after doing the pilot, we'll try to have the expand to the different various sections, users, and make a core team so that they can use the application and develop the necessary bot running for the people. So that was the strategy which we want to adopt. Coming to your question, like what is the COVID scene? After COVID and what we have seen in the oil industries, there are two different main problems which have come up. Demand slump is there, and because to meet the demand slump, we need to reduction cost. Typically, we have a fixed cost. Any manufacturing has a fixed cost. One way of reduce when the demand is produce more, the cost will come less. But here we can't produce more because there's a big, huge slump, and we don't know when the economy is going to revive. So this is a double challenge for us. We think personally, I think it's the right time for doing a mixing RPA with business re-engineering, because in the basics of any business re-engineering is we have to answer ourselves, basically ask ourselves and answer two questions. Why do we do what we do? Why do we do the way we do? Now suppose my process has some flaws in it. It is cumbersome, it is mundane, no doubt. But if I put an RPA, the inherent defects in the process will automatically flow in. There won't be a drastic change. So when I implement RPA, it is a good time for us to identify if the process can be improved further. Because most of the processes have a history of developing long back. They developed in rise to some situation which people faced at long back. So I think personally it's a good time to do a business re-engineering, identify a process where we want to automate. Let's say it's a repetitive task, but can I improve the process also? Then RPA will give a boost in the output. And we are looking the use basically to RPA to see that the skilled people do not waste time in repetitive tasks. Typically for a DPR in a director level MSG or say critical post, a lot of time is wasted in getting a DPR generated in the morning from all over India. There are control rooms for DPRs and things like that. So there are quite a number of people dedicated in many areas. So these automatically are flowing from multiple systems. So I can have a complete dashboard for a DPR, which is a combination of different systems, because no company will have one system which gives a perfect all over the dashboard view. So RPA can be utilized for that also.
Yeah, I
So
think,
the
you
core
Correct.
advantage is critical people can give time to do the analytics.
Yep. I think you highlighted several important points. One is you're using this as an opportunity to drive some of the process improvements, business engineering goals. And interestingly, we did a study recently about your comment around skilled people's time, where we interviewed, I think, over 5,000 odd people, and we found that most of these people who are workers working with the office systems, they said that 2 to 3 hours of their time is just wasted in just getting the data out of these various systems, and they would like that to be automated. And I think some of the tasks that you mentioned around creating reports, putting data together from multiple systems, clearly is one of those which the bots can very easily pick up, and it not only makes the job more interesting, but also makes it, I think, much more accurate from that perspective. So I think we'll come back to this a little bit more. Mr. Manoj Kumar, how do you view the transformation within your organization, and how does automation play into this, especially within the COVID context?
Okay. See, at HMEL, we also adopt the new latest technology, and the new technology has its own challenge in terms of convincing people. Just this technology can make a difference. In my opinion, out of the new digital technology, what got introduced in past 3-4 years, namely RPA, IIoTs, advanced analytics, bots, maybe AR, VR. I think RPA is the richest cousin, where you can show the benefit then and there. So we also adapted, and my recommendation is always to start with a small. Let's touch and feel the technology. Unless until you touch and feel the technology with your own processes, it looks good on the presentation. It looks, when you speak to somebody else, but you need to contextualize in your own organization. So identify a small process. People will be able to understand, better. It's not that maybe we named it RPA today. The automation was there since ages. Okay, but it was not packaged well. People have not understood it, well. So in HMEL, we started with a small process, a process which impacted many of us, I would say, where employee teams, there were, so many processes, so many steps were involved, and we have re-engineered and automated the entire process, by which, employee, if you submit your claim today, you will get money in your bank account tomorrow without any manual intervention. So what it has done, it has created a positive impact, and it's not that our users have become the ambassador, brand ambassador of RPA. They are not worried, who has done it, which tool they have used, etc., etc. They are not worried about the technology. What they saw, we submitted the claim, and somehow it is, we are getting in our bank account, very next day. Okay, when they were not knowing it's RPA or which automation tool, automation anywhere or something. So it has created, in my opinion, a good positivity. So with that positivity, users have themselves come to us. Okay, why can't, if this can be done, why can't we do this kind of a processes? It means you need to show what you have done in your organization. I can speak to many other organizations as RPA, OEM. You can get me, what you have done in Schlumberger or any other organization. But contextualization in your own organization, in my opinion, that's a key to the real benefit of RPA. And secondly, very important point, Mr. Raju has highlighted. Initially 4, 5, 10 processes we can get it done based on what people are doing and how to automate it. But the important part, if you want to take maximum benefit out of RPA, is re-engineering the process. All, for so many years we have implemented, let's say ERP and other systems, and for some reason we are keep on doing those activities. We do not know why we are doing so. Can we eliminate some of the process? Can we do it differently? Because technology has changed, people have changed, people's intellectual level has changed, systems have changed, so many things. But we, as routine activity, as modern task, we keep on doing those activities. That we never challenge our existing status quo. We never challenge. So my, when you need to scale it up, for initial it's okay. You don't need to apply your mind straight away. Whatever comes, you implement it. Okay, so that you generate the positivity. But when you need to scale it up, in my opinion, the process engineering becomes the key. If you don't do the process engineering, your company is not ready for the process engineering. In my opinion, you will not be able to get the maximum out of RPA. You straight away will struggle to justify the ROI at some point of time. Initially, nobody will ask you, but after, let's say, a point, when say, okay, yes, people start questioning ROI. And importantly, I say RPA is more for productivity. Okay, but it is misunderstood and misconstrued where reduction in the manpower. Okay, so we all need to be truthful to ourselves. To what extent, in a manufacturing company, we can reduce people. I do not know that answer. Maybe in the shared services and all, you can optimize. But in an existing setup, we should be looking it more from a productivity tool. Number one, a tool which can generate more accurate result. And third, in my opinion, which we discovered during our implementation is, sometimes there are many things which people do when they get time. Or sometimes, people don't do that activity because some other task has come which has superseded the priority of that particular task. But once you have automated, then you do not worry. Even unplanned work has come, that what will run on that particular day, irrespective of the priority of that individual.
Correct.
So in my opinion, these are some of the key factors, where we should be considering in our RPA journey.
Yeah, I think this aspect about understanding the processes and being able to look at it from a business value perspective is very important. And I think that point very clearly came out. And the fact that automation tool can help you get to that business value quickly is also very, very important. In some of our customers, what we have seen is that they use automation just to free up people's time, because if you keep doing what you're doing and you don't have any help, then you can't even think about how do you re-engineer this thing. So they have automated through the processes so they can free up time, so they can then re-engineer. So you're not sort of stuck in a chicken and egg kind of situation where I don't have time, therefore I can't start, right?
Absolutely. And importantly, one important factor also, when you go for identification of the process, what simply people do, okay, I do this manually, can you automate it? But that's the wrong way, in my opinion. We should be seeing across department the process in totality, not siloed to that individual, to that department. In my opinion, it should be seen at an organization level, starting from, from start to end. Not restricted to the particular individual or particular section, particular department. It should be seen in totality. I think that's, if we see those kind of a thing, let's say when we implemented the ERP or any other thing, I think this project also should be seen from that perspective, where automation is easiest task, in my opinion. That can be done by automation anywhere, or technology is a bit mature. That's my belief is what the efforts are required to re-engineering and identifying the right process and the intent for the change management. I think these are the few aspects if we want to make RPA a success in our organization.
Let me take this to Mr. Alok. Mr. Alok, sir, I think I just wanted your views on this ROI justification also, because you have taken a fairly aggressive approach towards automation. As to how do you look at automation as a enterprise-wide? How do you justify this as an enterprise-wide strategy to the right boards or committees to get that approval and get that management buy-in to roll out a large-scale program like this? What would be your advice to the participants? How should they go about doing that and making the case?
Actually, Indian Oil is a large organization. And having started being with the organization for a large number of years, we realize that there are opportunities for efficiency improvement. And also, this is a fact that we have to realize that future is in future we are going to have our co-worker as robots only. So we have not tried to take a piecemeal approach to deployment of RPA. If a robot as a co-worker is a reality, then we are not going to deploy 10, 20, 50 bots and end up over there. It's going to be a homogeneous mixture in the long term to come. So that is why we have gone in for creating a platform, identify certain use cases, implement them, and let the users realize the benefit which are coming out of this. And I am very sure when we implemented SAP also, I remember in 2002, most of the users were very unhappy with the lot of screens and lot of T codes to remember. But thereafter, their demands started coming. We automated, suppose, say, fortnightly pricing uploads. They were very happy. They had to fill pricing for 5,000 products every fortnight, which we automated. Similarly, there are many more transactions like filling of a wagon rake or a tank lorry. Those transactions were automated, and the users were very happy that yes, you have reduced our work. And then they started coming up with several requests. Why not automate this? Why not automate this? Even beyond automation, they went, why not automate and optimize? Or they came up with the objective function, the equally distribute the kilometers among transporters, whatever. So many demands came and they were all achieved. So I sincerely believe that this RPA platform also will generate such kind of requests. That is why we want to be equipped with the platform to meet the demand. See, it's like you sometimes you can't foresee what kind of demand will be there. No one had imagined that Prime Minister Ujjwala Yojana, 8 crore connections will be released.
Right.
No one had released that. When we went for direct benefit transfer, no one believed that we will have to capture scale up the process to capture the details of 30 crore customers. So similarly, I find that the users, once they get enlightened with this platform, they will definitely come up with it. So that is how this is the approach we have taken, being a large organization. And of course,
did you see any challenges with that in making such a large scale investment into this?
no, because we have a long term vision. We have identified this initiative as a key digital initiative. So I don't find that once the benefits are visible, as I told you, for every initiative, we can't say that it's going to reduce manpower or it's going to save time or bring some productivity gains. There are certain enabling safeguards also companies getting through these automations. So considering everything put together, I find that I am very sure that future users will come up demanding much more. That time we should not be wanting that, okay,
Right.
I'll procure and go ahead. So that is why we wanted to set up a platform which can be utilized. That is approach we have taken, but other organizations can always review their strategy.
Correct. It reminds me of a very sort of story that my CEO says very fondly, that in early days he met a CFO organization in an American firm where they reduced the period close to be automated it to such an extent that everybody in the finance operation could go home at 5 o'clock in the evening. And in one of those periods, one of the bots went down. So the option was either do it manually or fix the bot. So the couple of employees who knew the platform, they said, we'll fix the bot because we don't want to do it manually at all. We are just happy that the system takes care of itself. So I think the technology has that power of making you depend on it, because it is just simply better way of doing the work. And I think people realize that. And I think this democratization approach that you have taken, I think, has a lot of value. Mr. Raju, how would you think of that in your organization? Would you think of it in somewhat different way from an ONGC context perspective?
Actually, selling such a automation ideas is a challenge because functionally the roles are multivariate. Every individual has a different perspective of looking at it. When I say, even if you say as an assistant, so it hard selling RPA will be it's a challenge. First of all, so we are taking small steps. We have understood the POC technology. Then we want to do a pilot scale and see how well we can do by coding and things like that. Do it ourselves because the total cost of ownership and the return of investment would be critical for this solution. Because if we implement it and 1 year down the line, 3 year down the line, if you are wedded to it, then how do we go it? How do the rates, let's say the licensing rates go up, how do we tackle it? So these are practical things. Because now the technology is in an nascent stage, licensing costs are less. Software costs is people are aggressive in pushing the market also, the sellers. But down the line, say 4 years, 5 years, when we depend on this product, how are they going to scale up the cost? So can we have the capability to do it in-house? So that we are exploring as a part of the pilot. And can we form a core team which can address the needs? Because then we just take the requirements, like a team of particular person in say, because we are again just like Indian Oil spread across India. Maybe a team has a particular requirement, and can I deliver a solution right away? Because instead of everybody getting trained and this thing, maybe a core team under a center of excellence can do it. So we already formed a center of excellence for digital initiatives. So I think it will be a part of that chain which comes up. So that is how we are trying to look at it. And scalability, how we can scale up the pilot model is a critical factor for us. Typically, in terms of licensing cost and practical, how do we justify if there is an increase in cost when we have a revenue? Because the oil revenues are being hit and it will take time for world economy. Suppose I take a product from a company X, Y, then maybe 2 years down the line, it escalates by 5 to 10%, saying the forex change, because most of the software is imported. It is you are having solution implementers, but RPA, even though like even automation it is in Baroda, but still your headquarters is San Jose, you are selling in dollars.
Right.
So how am I exposed to foreign exchange variations? So these are critical for us.
Yeah. So can RPA be used for testing, verifying the inconsistency in reports layout? This is the question by one of the attendees.
So I think the platform has capability to program things that are specific to your requirements. As an example, if you're looking at a report inconsistencies from a layout perspective, you have to identify programmatically what is that attribute that can give you the inconsistency, right? Whether it is at the layout level or data level. Once you have been able to identify that repetitive action, which is this inconsistency, you can program it and then make it available as a command package. And like I showed in the interface, then use it for automating the inconsistency identification over and over again. But first you have to figure out what attribute identifies the inconsistency.
I take these questions later. You can continue with the panel for some more time.
Thank you. First of all, I have to apologize. There was a power disruption here. Mr. Manoj, you talked about productivity gains as the barometer rather than the staff. Right? So I'm wondering how do you see scaling up the automation in your organization from where you are? What are the use cases? What are the opportunities in different functional areas that you're seeing today?
So we have used around 20 processes we have implemented, and majorly it is in finance, HR, marketing, and importantly we have used in our refinery operations and in our technical services. So these are the 5 or 6 departments where we have used those 20 processes.
And referring back to Mr. Raju's COE kind of idea, how do you see from a public perspective the silos within different business units or departments in establishing a COE and gaining support for the COE for transformation opportunities across organizations? So how should organizations approach this creation of COE? Mr. Raj, maybe you could comment.
Yeah, yeah. See, basically the common journey is for a common goal. The journey of all is for a common goal. So
Right.
once now, I think there is a very consensus among across wide, because I'll put it this way. Today we are having this VC instead of a seminar, video
Correct.
conference. Adoption to technologies become fast. School children are doing video conferencing classes, at least class 3, 4, 5 and all. And nobody is teaching them. They are not asking for training. Maybe 10 years back, if somebody in a company said we would do everything on VC, everybody would say, give us training.
Right.
So adoption to technology is becoming fast, and we are seeing it across in our world in mobile phones. Very knowledge, and people are gaining the knowledge of how to handle mobile phones and think how to make videos. The popularity of the TikTok platform. So adoption to technology is not a challenge per se, what it was like maybe 2 or 3 decades back. Young generation is savvy, and I think the goal, if only thing is, if I can prove that this technology is good, then the acceptance will come.
I see.
The proof is in the pudding. That the young generation is like our children, all they are what do you call? Don't have time for testing and doing a year or two. We will see the result. We will tweak this. No, either it works or it doesn't work.
Yeah, makes sense. So let me maybe move to my last question, and then we can take any audience question. Mr. Alok, I'll start with you. From an innovation perspective, how do you see public sectors sort of democratizing the spirit of innovation through models like hackathons or agile teams? What are the trends you're seeing to make it easier to get the technology and how to use it widespread across the organization? Any specific advice for our audience?
See, it's the age of technology, and it's whether it is public sector or private sector, both have to adopt to the same approach. When the COVID came, it didn't differentiate between public and private sector. So
Right.
even our public sector oil marketing companies are also continuing to work. In fact, we are one of the few industries who are working round the clock even during COVID to give LPG and transport fuels. So, and we have a huge administrative staff who had to be enabled for work from home through different means. Anyway, so this is what. Having said that, every company will have to take these strategies. There are few things what we have taken up. One is that the change management is a big exercise, and for change management, we are doing internal hackathons. We are doing external hackathons. We have a well-defined digital transformation group, which is entrusted with not only implementing digital project, but also do certain change management activities within the corporation. So it could be very small as a digital monthly newsletter or regular quizzes or hackathons. In fact, one of the hackathons we had done, there were participation from almost 500 officers within the company. We are also doing external hackathons involving startups and students. We have a full-fledged incubation center in India now for startups, but even that is open to all kinds of technical, non-technical startups. So we are especially doing hackathon for technical startups. Another interesting what we are doing is a reverse mentoring exercise. So the senior folks, if they feel uncomfortable about using the technology now, we are doing the reverse mentoring exercises through junior colleagues. They are going and teaching them again through digital tools only. So these are some of the exercises we are doing just to promote the use of technology.
I particularly like the reverse mentoring idea. That's awesome.
Yes, And we got a very good response. In fact, few of the senior folks, they selected 3 or 4 mentors, officers as their mentors, because they wanted to get trained in 2-3 areas. So it's good that we have already conducted reverse mentoring for almost 25 to 30 senior executive directors. Now we are expanding to all. We'll take it to even lower level. But through this, and it could be as simple as how to handle their mobile, how to organize their mobile phones, how to organize their personal laptops, to how to use the internal applications also. So people really feel shy in learning technology, but then it's we have to put some efforts. So this is how we are trying to micromanage the thing, the change management exercise. And also we are also coming out with recently only we have again launched a young leaders conclave. Again, it's during COVID time, so people are having a lot of energy, they are staying at home. So now we invited entries from all the young leaders to form teams and try to present a solution to critical business problems. Again, you will be very surprised to note that entries from 500 teams had come, and we had very difficult time in shortlisting them to 20 in the first stage itself. But then that means there are so many problems within the company. Some could be imaginary problems, but then there are really problems. Now we are going ahead with that conclave. It will be held digitally and conclude in June. But what I'm saying is, after doing all these activities, people know that there is a department who is doing something, and then we are also popularizing whatever tools we are trying to bring in. That also through monthly, weekly newsletters. We are trying to tell them. Dedicated website, mobile app for such kind of digital activities. And participation is one thing. Second thing is information dissemination. We are trying to do that. These are the progress of main digital projects. This altogether is what we are trying to do for technology information sharing in IOC.
Great to hear that. I think we do a botathon in organizations, and we see people coming out at the end of 4 hours building the full application like capability, and they're really excited about it. And there is nothing better than sort of what Raju sir said, proof is in the pudding, eating of the pudding. And I think the moment you can do that, you can get used to it. There's a question coming in from a panel, which is talking about, it's a question to Mr. Manoj Kumar. It's talking about, hang on, let me get back. Question is, can you please specify in which areas of finance have you implemented RPA? And another question is, what are the use cases of RPA in refinery operations? Both of them are to Mr. Manoj Kumar. Looks like we have lost him. So we will go back to, I'll go back to Mr. Raju and ask him what advice he would have for people who are still sitting on the fence, and what steps should they take in evaluating the technology and breaking this mindset.
I think personally, I would advise one thing, not only for RPA, it can be for any technology. Normally, when we come across a technology, we think like, what will it do for me? Typical, how will it help me? But I normally advocate the thought of a hacker. If one is a hacker, he thinks in a different way. He thinks, what can I do with it? Not what it does for me, but what I can do with it. So it is only a very fine distinction, but that makes the entire perspective change. So before discarding, one has to properly use a technology. There are many myriads of technologies coming up. If we want to go beyond the jargon, we have to actually put some dedicated effort in properly assessing, because every technology has some limitations. It is not a utopia. It works under certain circumstances. One should understand and realize it, and whether their company or their process require it or not. The main objective should be very clear. Typically, let's say manpower reduction. If the object of a company is manpower reduction, then I don't think, based on my understanding of RPA is a tool for them.
Yeah.
Because RPA is increasing not for removing staff. So typically, like what is it one wants, that has to, if that is defined properly, I think technology can be identified.
There's another question coming in, and I think I'll leave it to you guys to respond to this. It's about how is RPA different from analytics and prediction systems using AI? Mr. Alok, maybe you can give a user's perspective on how you look at RPA and how do you distinguish between that. And from my perspective, RPA is a vehicle for AI. But let me hear from you. How do you look at these systems differently?
Actually, analytics is now actually how I will say is RPA. I understand more through automating the repetitive tasks what we are having, whereas analytics assisted by AI is something that you have a huge amount of data, you have to analyze and bring out the trends, you have to do some predictive maintenance, or you have to put some for that you have to build an algorithm, you have to put some rules, some understanding, some machine learning mechanism to identify the trend. Suppose in a process unit you want to control a certain parameter which is dependent on say 100 parameters. So out of those 100 parameters, what are the real parameters on whom this objective function is dependent? So these are the kind of analytic projects, of course AI ML assisted, whereas RPA may have an element of analytics also inbuilt, but predominantly it will be doing the automating the repetitive tasks also, which we are doing in various applications. It could be integrating 4 or 5 applications also. It could be taking data from your travel system, putting it into SAP, and then posting a finance entry, whatever. So there is a thin difference between both the terms, but yes, analytics. What I understand is that it will be more towards analyzing huge amount of data and then coming out with certain results.
Right.
Whereas
So what we
RPA
have
will
seen,
help.
yeah, I think what we have seen in the example is a lot of processes when they get automated. If you're only thinking about the rules-based or the repetitive part of it being automated, then you leave out still tasks which will require human interpretation through maybe, let's say, analysis of fraud or looking at document to get the data out of the document. And that's where AI can become handy in automating those aspects to assist in decision making that can then become a part of the overall process flow. So in that way, the RPA can orchestrate the full process and AI can help in the decision making in the steps that are happening all through this. So that's how we see it as a sort of a wholesome, holistic way of looking at RPA and AI together. Mr. Manoj, while you were gone, there was a question for you, and that was around any specific use cases in finance from an HMEL perspective. And let me, while you answer that, I'll read the next question for you.
Pramod, can you repeat your question, please?
The question was, what are the specific things you're looking at in finance area at HMEL for RPA?
Okay. For example, the bank reconciliation, that's one of the things what we have done through automation anywhere. Secondly, a very interesting use case. See, we book a lot of travel, okay, through our travel agent, okay, where the GST benefit get lost because we do not have the actual invoice from the carrier airlines, okay. So now what we are planning, what we are doing with the invoice what we get from our travel agency, we go back to the particular carrier, and with a reference to the original invoice, we are taking the GST credit. Okay, because that was a very tedious task, and people were ready to forego that credit rather than doing it manually.
Right.
Okay, so as I said, RPA is a continuous process. Okay, it will not be okay. Yes, you have started a project and you have finished. So either whether we need to continuously engage with the consultants, or as Mr. Raju said, okay, you need to build your own team to to keep on configuring the RPA. So in my opinion, it's a a logical extension of an ERP. There are many things which we could not do in ERP and people were expecting, and that was not possible initially. But now coming with ERP, in my opinion, it's a logical way, a logical extension of further automation of the processes.
Another question for you is, are you seeing any specific use cases for RPA in refinery operations?
Yes, we are using in refining operation. At our offsite, we are generating a lot of production reports. Taking reports from our historian system, our link system, our planning, our SAP. The person, the benefit what we show, he used to spend 4 hours to 5 hours on a daily basis to generate those reports. And there was a huge person dependency. We all say, let's say there should not be a person dependency, etc., etc. But in the real world, we do not have the redundancy in our systems. Okay, it's easier to say that if this person is not there, he can do, but normally it's difficult. Every individual has its own job. So the person dependency, accuracy, and importantly the time, to generate those offsite reports, have been immensely reduced. So RPA, in my opinion, it is nothing to do with it is projected. Let's say majorly it is in finance, HR, those kind of, I would say the support department. But in my opinion, it can be extended to any department where routine mundane task is happening. So it's about the repetitive and the mundane task, and in my opinion, all the department, irrespective of the industry, have those legacy where repetitive task and the mundane task is getting done, and they get accumulated over a period of time. Because somebody has started, so we all follow, as I said, nobody challenge the status quo. Somebody has started for some reason, whether the reason why ceased to exist, but the process continues.
I think both you and Mr. Raju has made that point very emphatically about analyzing before automating, which I think
yeah, it is important. Initially, I would say to generate the positivity to get this tool, we can ignore those aspects, because let people see the benefit without going deep into it. Because if we go from the day one deep into analyzing what all we should be doing, I believe it would be difficult to roll it out. So in a small way, yes, of course, whatever comes in the way where people are happy, let's do implement it. And when it comes to the scale up stage, when recent decent developments have been done, now you need to scale it up. Then definitely deep diving about the re-engineering of the processes is must if we want to be more efficient.
Mr. Raju, there's a question for you, which is about when you look at the Center of Excellence, are you looking at people mostly from IT? Mr. Raju, are you able to hear my question? The question is for you. It is about when you look at creating COEs for digital initiatives, do you create them as with cross-functional expertise, or do you mostly look at IT people for the COE? How do you approach the team?
We think in our organization IT as an accelerator for the business process initiatives. So in the COE, it will be a multidisciplinary team, because ultimately the processes are need to be improved or modified or enabled by IT. We will look at the multidisciplinary teams operating, and the domains will be owning the initiatives, and IT will be helping them out to getting the team. The Center of Excellence will definitely be a team of multidisciplinary people,
okay,
not just IT.
And I think that's what we have seen. It's multidisciplinary as well as consisting of people from different organizations or different departments. So you get the full business expertise as part of the team that's delivering this initiative. The next question I have is, it's called, has there been any implementation of RPA in PSU by which vendor payment information is updated using details available in various modules in SAP Outlook? Bill tracking systems, is there any implementation for intelligent data capture from manual invoices from vendors for bill tracking platforms? So the answer to this, I think, is this is a very popular use case for RPA. And I think Mr. Manoj, you also talked about a use case which was similar to this, right?
Yes, it can be done, with the OCR. OCR we have not implemented. After OCR, the process we have implemented, but with a lot of OCR technology, I think it's easy. In fact, in my opinion, post-COVID, okay, the demand for OCR, this thing will increase, where people, let's say 100% strength is not allowed in the office. So this technology will play a major role in reading the document and process accordingly.
So we have a technology called IQBot, which is intelligent document processing. Read invoices and assign the data read to a specific fields, and then it can extract it in a structured format and then input in the next system. So this is a very doable use case, and we have, I think, over 400 odd implementations of this use case with millions of invoices and bills being processed through the system. So I think this is very doable, and we'll be happy to engage on this question. There are several other questions. Can I go through the whole next 5 minutes? Pragya or Anish, do we have any other poll to run, or can I take 1 or 2 more questions?
So we can take 1 or 2 questions, and then we can wind up probably in 5 minutes.
Okay.
So we have 1 hand raised. Let me check if the gentlemen still want to ask that question.
Okay.
So meanwhile, you take another questions on. 1 question was for IOCL. I hope that has been taken.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question. Mr. Alok, the question is, what infrastructure is envisaged for enterprise-wide RPA in terms of compute, network, and storage capacities? And are you doing it on-premise or on cloud?
We are doing it on-premise because we are putting our very critical processes on RPA. So some of the just to tell you what are the critical processes, we are putting processes like GST reconciliation, putting on the GSTR1 and GSTR2 on RPA. Then as it was just discussed, vendor invoice management, the travel bill processing. In fact, new material code is another big headache. Many organizations end up creating several material codes for one material only. So there has to be a automated process for material code creation, which should also have intelligence enough to block the duplicate material code. Then we have, I told you, inventory control material, very high value material. So these are the kind of processes we are putting up. And of course, there will be many more processes we will be putting up, which are very critical to our operations. So we have consciously decided to put it on premise. And as I said that we have a digital transformation project undergoing. So we purchased the hardware for the whole digital transformation project, in which RPA was one of the part of the hardware. So that's how we have gone, and we have already procured the hardware.
I can make a quick comment on the compute storage network. So from an RPA infrastructure perspective, the core compute and storage requirements are not that significant. And networking costs are, you don't need to provision additional network bandwidth for the RPA purpose. And if you have specific questions around this, we can obviously engage and talk about those. Let me see if there's any other question here. I think we have mostly covered all the questions. Pragya, were you able to contact the gentleman who was raising his hand? Or
NTPC, I am just checking. I am unmuting. Let's see. Yeah.
Okay. Meanwhile, there's another question called, has RPA been used for KYC updates using data available and document uploads? And if yes, how is security handled? So when you're doing KYC process, typically you are looking at the document submitted by the user and using document processing technology like IQBot, you can get the data out and use that for verification. So in this, the security is essentially around the transmission of the documents, which you can secure by using a secure website, for example, an HTTPS enabled site. And once the document comes into your organization, you have to make sure that it is going into the document repositories which are secure, where access controls are implemented. And then when you are, say, for example, putting a bot to go through these documents, it's fully controlled. So that's how you would do it. Pragya, any news on this question?
Just unmuting one person. Mr. Indranil.
Yes.
You can ask your question.
Yes. Actually, I wanted to know. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Actually, I just wanted to understand how you differentiate between ERP and RPA, because my organization is Mecon, which is a consultancy organization in steel as well as oil and gas consultancy services. So we are, our IT group is actively pursuing the implementation of ERP. So I think it was the right moment that I should get it clarified from you, how it is different, ERP and RPA.
Mr. Manoj, would you like to take that question?
Yeah, see, sometimes this question comes when you revamp your processes. So my opinion is, if something can be done in ERP, okay, with some programming and all, we should not use RPA for that purpose. RPA means if it involves multiple systems, whether in form of email, Excel files, or taking extraction from data, then we should be using RPA. If something alone can be done in ERP, with certain programs, with some custom coding, etc., it should be done in ERP only. So by seeing the process, when we design the process, look out if there are multiple input sources are available, then it's RPA case. If only one source is available, it's a ERP case.
Yeah. Another way to think about this could be, let's say, if you have an invoicing process in SAP and you have the invoices coming in, right? Now the SAP system does not have capability to read these documents and push these invoices into the system. So you may have an document processing component part of your RPA, which can look at all the incoming invoices in different email channels or other channels, read them and push them into the system like an SAP automatically. That would be a perfect SAP RPA use case on top of SAP, and we see that over and over.
Pramod, let's say this OCR, let's say SAP with their add-on solution, those kind of invoice processing RIMS solution were available, for a decade, I would say now. Okay, it's not that, okay, that was again a case for RPA. As I said, we need to see that from the totality per se, how many systems, how many, processes, how lengthy the process is. And then accordingly, we should be deciding, whether it should be done in RPA or it should be done in ERP. So my point is, if it involves only just one source of system, then it should be a case of that particular system that should be handled in that particular system. Unnecessarily, we should not, overuse RPA. RPA should be used when we have multiple sources, underlying source system. And the source system, when I say Excel input is also a source system.
Absolutely, perfectly valid, right?
There is a variation. Can I intervene, Pramod?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Basically, suppose you have a ERP system with a decade-old hardware. Now, if you want to upgrade an ERP system, it's going to cost you quite full of money. Whereas with RPA, with a single thing, you can get the data from the same ERP and generate analytics. So that is a cheaper way of working it. So you can extend the life of systems with RPA.
And I think Mr. Manoj also said that you can think of the RPA as a way to extend your existing systems. I think you made that point earlier, where some capabilities may not exist. But I think the larger point here,
there is no comparison between ERP and RPA. Both are completely different.
Absolutely, these are complementary technologies. One does not replace the other. Yes.
Then we'll just take one more.
Go ahead, please. Yeah.
So, Mr. R. Sahai, you please ask your question.
Yeah, hello. So my first question was, what is the costing of the RPA implementation in case of the automation? And the second question is how do we integrate the RPA with SAP? Any use case if somebody can disclose?
Well, I think you've answered this, but maybe you can provide quick feedback and then we can wrap up.
Yeah.
The question. I think the question is about using RPA with SAP. Manoj, would you like to provide guidance here?
See, I think question is about the cost of RPA.
We cannot hear it. So maybe we can take that question over email and provide a response. I think this has been a truly fascinating session for me, and I'm sure audience would appreciate time from Mr. Alok, Mr. Raju, as well as from Manoj Kumar. I think some very insightful comments as to how do you approach this transformation journey and how automation can play a role. And obviously, vendors like us can help, but I think it's very important, as the panelists have described, how to approach and how to really think broad and deep at the same time to really take full use of this technology. I think a lot of learning for I think everybody in the audience, particularly me. And with that, I would like to thank all of our panelists one more time and hand over to Pragya. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for your time, and it was a very interesting session, and we are getting more and more questions, but since there is a time limit, so I will send those questions to you so that you can answer them offline, and we will share them to the esteemed attendees also. Thank you everyone, and there is one poll left for our audience, so I will run it quickly. That is specific to how they would like to interact, and attendees, if you want to ask more questions, or you have anything specific to automation or RPA, to write it to us. We will try to get them answered, and we will try to keep organizing more workshops related to that so that it will address more and more concerns of you. Thank you everyone, and there is a quick poll for the attendees which we would like to have the answers on. And this is the last poll, and with that we would be closing. Closing the poll in another 5 seconds. So thank you, Pramod, for managing the session. Alok sir, thank you so much. Raju sir, thank you so much for taking time out. Manoj sir, thank you so much. And on behalf of Governance Now and entire audience, I really thank all of the panelists and moderator for today's session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity of interacting with my peers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and we look forward to your presence in future too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah.
You too. So this was the automation masterclass for today. So we will be coming up with more masterclasses in future. So stay tuned and do write your feedback. Do send your questions at events@governancenow.com. We would be happy to answer, and we will be happy to incorporate your feedback. Thank you.